Our Women's Spotlight is brought to you by Sprouts Farmers Market. Open 7 days a week. Visit your neighborhood Sprouts for good for you groceries and great prices on the freshest produce. We just talked about men's golf, but put women's golf in the spotlight. Justin Silverstein always has that team in national title contention, and that should be the case yet again. USC women's golf ranked number 2 in the country. They start their season up in Chambers Bay, that U.S. Open course coming up this weekend, so good luck to them. We've got our football roundtable now, ready to take it to the next level. Unleash the beast this college tailgate season with Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet. Monster Energy, unleash the beast. Keely Orr joins us now. Jordan Moore, Sean Cody Kessler. You know, guys, I was thinking about how much the perception of this game has changed in 3 weeks. You could use the Vegas point spreads just as an example, but I think USC, if this was the first game of the season, probably would have been a 8 to 10 point underdog kind of thing. Now all of a sudden the Trojans are the favorites. It's pretty interesting and how optimistic Keely is. Everyone feels going into this Saturday in a tough environment against the defending national champs.
First off, just want to say honored to join Cody's Tips and Tricks for Golfing show. Very glad to join.
I'll be posting some swing videos this week on my Instagram. So
okay, good to know. No, I mean, it's super interesting because I have a friend who's a longtime USC fan, and I was like, oh, you're going on Saturday? And he was like, no, I didn't think the Trojans were going to do that well. And now everyone's almost like they're going to blow Michigan out the water. But I do think it's interesting that Riley is definitely pumping the brakes on that thought. He's like, anyone who thinks that this is not a good team is crazy, which I thought was pretty bold for him to say. But it's nice to hear that Riley is not underestimated what they're going to see on the road in the big house. So it is funny to see how quickly things change in college football.
Once the games actually start.
Yeah, I mean, the preseason stuff is always mind-boggling to me. What's going to happen? You don't know what team is going to be. It doesn't matter who's coming back. Every team each year is a different personality, different culture, different leaders on the team. So to think that anybody's going to be different, and you look at Michigan, they lost 13 guys in the draft. They had to refill some stuff. New coaching staff. They're going to figure out. They're building to how good they can be, right? And so hopefully USC can get in early in the season and get after them. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think obviously they stumbled early against Texas, didn't look great in the big house, but they're figuring things out. New quarterbacks coming in for them, Alex Orji. So that's another thing you got to add on to the plate if you're Lincoln Riley studying for new quarterback. So a lot of moving pieces. Going to be a fun way to open up the Big Ten Conference. I mean, what gets better than that going on the road at the big house? But should be a fun game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, and the biggest thing for that is you lose Jim Harbaugh, right? And that's that's very difficult replacing a head coach. But kind of going back to what Jordan was saying is, the perception for a football team can change week to week, right? And that's what Lincoln said best, is they still have dominant football players on this team. They have 3 first-round picks, in my opinion, on defense. They have a first-round pick possibly in their tight end on offense. I know they're struggling at the quarterback position, and it doesn't look that great statistically, around the rest of the country. But this is still a dominant Power 5, or I guess Power 4 now, football team that just won a national championship a year ago. So they can come out and perform well, and they can be the first 3 weeks where, okay, we're still kind of figuring ourselves out and finding out what we do well and what our DNA is, and then be dominant on Saturday. So I love what Lincoln said. You got to come out ready to go, and you got to prepare, like you said earlier, nameless, faithless opponent, and go out there and dominate.
And this quarterback can definitely galvanize them too. I mean, that's why you make a quarterback change. We saw it in the last Rose Bowl season. USC started 1-3, and a quarterback change, all of a sudden it ignited a team that ultimately went on to win the Rose Bowl. Orji's interesting. He's a big-time athlete. I think that gives some trepidation to USC fans. There's been a lot of issues with mobile quarterbacks in the past. Maybe he's not known as the most accurate passer, but certainly brings something to the run game. Yeah,
well, if you look at what USC did with Utah State, Bryson Barnes, that's someone, and granted, different personnel around him
last season.
Yes, for sure. So this will be interesting to see once again. And I know I'm not the question asker here, but I was just curious what you guys think as far as announcing that change today on Monday rather than just, kind of having that surprise element on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it gives you a little bit of a hand, right? You kind of know what you can get ready for. You can see him out there. Obviously not a ton of reps. You can look at spring games, and Coach mentioned he saw him in high school, but a tremendous athlete, can run around. Was he asked to make a lot of throws? Not really, so we haven't really seen his arm too much. But, it's just always challenging when that happens the week you're going to play someone, and you got to figure out, because it changes all the timing and stuff. You have to get ready for this guy. But at least you know now who's the guy is, and you don't have to work for both of them.
And that's the best part, is it makes it easier instead of having to prepare for both, because Warren and Orji are completely different quarterbacks, right? And I think the advantage of saying that early is, and we've talked about on the podcast about, okay, when Jaden and Miller were going back and forth, I think the earlier you announce that, not necessarily is, factoring into your opponent, but it's to let the guys know in the locker room who the quarterback is going forward. We have confidence now. We've got out to a shaky start. We struggled against Texas. We struggled last week. We haven't looked as dominant as we should. Now this is a guy going forward, and hopefully he can create that spark for us on offense.
You guys mentioned the perception of a college football team can change week to week, and you were talking about those things Coach Riley said earlier, and that stood out to me, which is, he almost said, our perception can change too. It could go the other way. One bad Saturday on CBS, and all of a sudden people say, "Oh, you're not physical enough. Oh, you didn't fix the defense." And so, I think his point was right, which is that the consistency of the physicality will be tested over the next 9 games of the season. It's because it's one thing to get up for LSU, and the other team literally challenges you to a fist fight. Okay, you showed up for it.
Yeah,
but it's going to be every week now in this league, and Michigan is leading the way in that party.
Well, I mean, look at last weekend. With Georgia was the reigning number 1 team in the country. No doubts about them. They're going to run the table and go win the SEC and go win a national championship. And now everyone's pumping the brakes a little bit because they struggled against Kentucky. So week to week can change, and you've got to perform, especially in a high-level conference like the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah, and that's the thing about having the debut Big Ten season is everyone's perked up to see you. Like I'm sure we're going to get a lot of Big Ten away fans at the Coliseum because why not come to Los Angeles for the first time? So it's going to be interesting to see if there is kind of more excitement for this first season than maybe down the road.
I think it was fun watching that Texas game, right? It was, you got a chance to see Michigan. You got to say, obviously there's going to be a different formula every week to trying to beat a team, but you kind of saw what Texas did, right? They got in there early. They took the crowd out of it. They got up early. It was, the place was quiet for most of the game, and they kind of just sat on that lead. And I don't think Michigan's the team that's kind of built to have that kind of offense, that really high-powered attack. They want to run the ball. They want to play great defense. They want to throw to the tight ends. That's the kind of offense this is. If you can get up out in front like Texas did and take the crowd out, it can be a completely different game in that atmosphere.
Yeah, and that was going to be my last topic for you. Is the atmospheres, right? I mean, that's part of this too. And I don't know, just looking at it, that I think USC got probably a pretty decent draw in that regard. This is the big one, really, when you look at it. I mean, we know Washington's a difficult atmosphere, but we've seen it before. I don't know that Maryland and Minnesota are necessarily known as vaunted road atmospheres, and USC will play UCLA, which we've done before too. This is the one, though, where you go, hey, let's see how different it is. And, Cody, you see a wide-eyedness potentially, or is it an inspirational thing to get to play on this stage?
Yeah, 2 sides of that real quick. The positive thing for us now is we have the in-helmet communication. That is the most difficult part on the road, is communicating to the sideline. I know you do hand signals, but being able to communicate not only from the sideline but to the line of scrimmage and being in rhythm with that. So now that we have that and Lincoln can talk to Miller on the field is huge. But the biggest thing I'm going to be paying attention to is Jonah Monheim and Miller Moss, right? You expect when you go on the road that there may be some center quarterback exchange. There may be some false starts up front, and you absolutely cannot have those because those are drive killers, and it kills momentum also, and it gets the crowd back into it. But there's nothing better, like Lincoln said, and I remember playing in some of those away games, than throwing a touchdown on the road, and it's complete silence except for the nosebleeds. About 15 Trojan fans are going to be clapping.
Looking forward to that moment. Hope that
Hopefully
one happens.
A lot of those.
But it's funny. I mean, we will all be down there taking pictures on the field. You know what I mean? So there is that, and the players, whether they choose to acknowledge that or not, will probably feel a lot of that same thing of the stage, the gravity of the moment. So looking forward to seeing how they react to all of it. USC, Michigan on Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. That's when the Trojan Tailgate Show will start. We've got one more segment of Trojans Live next. One final segment of Trojans Live on a Monday night, Michigan week, USC, Michigan, a big debut this Saturday. This is, I'm glad we got the bye behind us. I didn't need a bye yet. I'm ready for some more football, the way USC has been playing. Just cannot wait for this game coming up on Saturday. Wrapping up Trojans Live with Sean Cody Kessler, Keely Eure. I'm Jordan Moore. Our over-under is presented by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC Athletics. All right, so I'm just basically using more or less the official over-under. The total for this game is 46.5. But your over-under, Sean, is 3.5 touchdowns for the winning team. Does the winning team need to score more than 3.5 touchdowns, or will the winning team score less?
Cody, would you like to go first?
I'm thinking, I'm kind of hesitant because I said when we did score predictions for LSU, USC, I thought it was going to be a high-scoring game, and that was not the case. I'm going to go over. I think Michigan struggled stopping the pass on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Miller Moss can have a great day. I'm going to go over for the Trojans. They win. I think we have 4 or 5 touchdowns.
I think if you're a Trojan fans, you want the over because then you're feeling good. Because I think, but like I said earlier, I don't think Michigan can score at that kind of volume, and if USC can get more than 4, I'd feel pretty good.
Over.
I think it's under. I really do. I think we're headed for a low-scoring game.
Very
I
well
think
could be.
Michigan's takeaway from the Texas game will be fewer possessions, slow this game down. I think they're going to try to play it like the Utah game at the Coliseum last year with Bryson Barnes, where it's just run, play defense, slow it down. Doesn't mean you can't win a low-scoring game, too, but I think that's what we're headed for, a little bit of a fist fight. All right, thank you to everyone involved. Appreciate everyone watching at home. Our YouTube audience has been fantastic, and everyone listening as well across the USC Trojans Media Network. We will be back next week to talk about this game. Follow us on YouTube. For Sean, Cody, for Keely, I'm Jordan. Fight on, everyone.